Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well and welcome back to my channel. In tonight's video, I'm going to be talking about the movies that I've watched in the month of July. July was actually a very exciting month movie-wise because I got the chance to see a lot of really awesome movies. I think currently there are a bunch of some really good movies to watch in the theater, but I've also got the chance to finally watch some movies that were in my watch list for ages. And I think in general, because all the movies that I've watched were really good, I think all of them ended up being a 4+ rating. I'm not going to be ranking them this time. I'm just going to be talking about them and sharing the rating that I've gave each one of those movies in my Letterboxd account. So if you are new here, welcome to my channel. One of the things that I do on a monthly basis is talk about the movies that I watch each month. I also have a Letterboxd account, and I'm going to link it in the comment section. So if you are a film lover or you're just interested in following my journey, you're more than welcome to follow me there as well. I have my notebook here, and I'm going to be sharing my notes. So I'm going to start with the first movie, which was one of the most highly anticipated movie for me this year in 2026, and I think not only for me, but I think also for many people out there. And the first movie is the Odyssey. Now, I got the chance to watch it twice already. For the first time, I watched that in like standard cinema theater, and then the second time I really insisted on trying to find tickets to catch it at IMAX, and I was able to do that, but it wasn't the 70 millimeters because where I live we don't have one. We only have regular digital IMAX. I know there is a big discussion going on about this movie, so I will start with my rating. I gave that movie 5 stars. I really loved the movie, actually. I was really excited for the second watch, and it really surprised me with how good it is and how I enjoyed that and how I genuinely think it's a good movie. Now, if you have watched my previous videos where I've been talking about some of Christopher Nolan's movies, the last one I got to see is Oppenheimer, which personally didn't really resonate with me that much, and I had some issues with this movie with some parts. But the Odyssey really landed well for me, and I'll explain. If you haven't watched any of these movies that I'm going to be mentioning today, you are in a safe space. I'm not going to talk about spoilers. I'm not going to ruin the plot, but I am going to still combine some features of film reviews and talk about how I just talk about things that I notice and things that I appreciate in filmmaking. I want to start first of all with the cinematography. I loved the cinematography. It worked so well for me. I think one of the reasons for this is, as everybody probably know by now, that Christopher Nolan used some really minimal green screens and CGI, and the movie took place in real landscape and real sets. And I think the choice of the different sets and the different nature was like really good. everything filmed so nicely. It gave the movie a very naturalistic type of cinematography just, that just films so nicely with the combination of camera angle, lighting, green, water. But also at the same time, I felt that the cinematography was very modern, very sharp, but also not overly done. And I appreciated that decision, and I think it turned out to be very sophisticated in my opinion, especially in a movie where it is theoretically set in ancient times and thousands years ago. So I really loved that. I really loved a very realistic type of cinematography using real location. I love the pace of the movie. I think the pace was really, really working for me. To me, the movie truly started in the scene of the Trojan horse, where they were hiding inside the horse, and then the part that they were coming out of the horse. I think that was masterfully done. I really loved the attention to the small details, to all of the details and all of the experiences that they had while they were hiding inside the horse. And just the pacing, the music, the acting, it was incredible. I think that was when I had like chills and I was like, oh my gosh, this movie is going to be really, really good. And I know a lot of people have criticism towards this movie, and one of the things that really that a lot of people are complaining about is essentially the editing of the movie and the jumping between the different timelines. I will say for me it worked. In Oppenheimer, it didn't work for me. It's something that is Christopher Nolan does a lot. And I think in Oppenheimer, I felt that I was mixed up with the different timelines and confused and just didn't really understood why he's doing that. But this time it worked for me really well. I think it really helped creating that atmosphere of artistic type of movie and poem type of movie. And I love that. I think at any point, I knew exactly where we are. At any point, I was connected with the movie. I was connected with the timeline of the movie, even though that we were working off of, I think, 4 different timelines. So to me, it worked really, really well. The score of the movie was really, really beautiful and gorgeous, in my opinion. The music was written by Ludwig Göransson. And I appreciated the attention to all of the details and to the ambitious project of wanting to create period and ancient instruments. The combination with the chants in the background. Wow, that was really, really moving in my opinion. And I think this might be, in my opinion, the best score that Christopher Nolan had in any of his movies. I did have some issue with the acting at sometimes with some of the actors. It felt a little bit inconsistent to me. For example, with Anne Hathaway and Tom Holland, some parts in some parts they were really, really good, and then in some parts they just didn't convince me, and it felt at times overdone or lacking. But again, overall the movie worked really well for me, and other parts really blew me away and compensated for this. So that's the reason why I was like, I'll just give that a 5. It doesn't really matter in the end of it, but maybe it should be a 4.5. Let's move forward to the second movie that I watched in theaters 2 weeks ago, and this is The Invite by Olivia Wilde. Wow, that was a surprise for this year. I didn't really see the trailer before purchasing the tickets. I just heard some really overall positive feedback. And I have a lot of appreciation for Olivia Wilde, and it's the first work of her as a director that I get to see. And I love this movie so much. And I ended up rating that and giving that 4.5 stars in Letterboxd. So a little bit about the plot. It's basically a story about a married couple that invites their neighbors for a dinner party at their apartment. It starts very, very awkward because this couple, they don't have much social life and they're kind of a very mature couple. They have a kid and they don't go out much. So the evening starts in a very, very awkward and kind of anxious way. But then it turns into a night that forces everyone to confront questions about love, intimacy, and honesty. It sort of like becomes like a collective therapy. Now that's the movie. The movie set in this apartment with those four main actors. The first couple that lives in the apartment, played by Olivia Wilde herself. So she's the director of the movie, but she's also the main actress. And her husband in this movie, who played by Seth Rogen, which is hilarious. I love him so much. And their neighbors, which is the other couple, played by Penelope Cruz and Edward Norton. Both of them provide such an incredible performance. This movie is a sharp, witty, smart comedy. I laughed so much, but it also has such emotional depth and really, really good pacing. This movie is basically an adaptation from apparently a well-familiar Spanish play. I think the name of the play is The Neighbors Upstairs. And it's not the first film adaptation of this play. Apparently there are a couple of other movies, not American movies, I think Spanish movies. But the film has this type of play atmosphere, the way that the camera is moving, the set, because the film is set only in this apartment. And it is so clever and so refreshing and different. And I just loved that movie. If you have seen this movie, let me know if you loved it. And I also really appreciate Olivia Wilde directing style. So apparently the cast, all the four actors, which are very well familiar and mature Hollywood actors, they were part of writing their character. So it was like a mutual collaboration type of project. Apparently they filmed the film in a chronological order, so scene by scene. And the actors improvised a lot. A lot of the scenes that eventually ended up in the movie were improvisation. And I love that. I think that's a very brave decision, but it worked really, really well for her. And yeah, I think it was a really, really fun movie to watch. Definitely the biggest surprise this year, and maybe I'll get the chance to catch that again soon. The second movie that I have on my list is actually not one movie, but a trilogy that I am so happy that I finally got the chance to watch. This is the Before Trilogy. So we have Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. Wow, where do I even start? I heard so much about this trilogy, and I had this one on my list for a while. I just didn't find the time to commit to such a project. But I'm so happy that I got the chance to pick it up because I think it's such an incredible trilogy. So this trilogy is widely considered one of the greatest cinematic explorations of love and time. So essentially we have 3 movies that are filmed with the same actors. We have 2 people, which are basically a couple. Jesse, played by Ethan Hawke, and Celine, played by Julie Dipley. And each movie released and set 9 years apart. The first movie, Before Sunrise, is from 1995, and the second movie, Before Sunset, is from 2004, and Before Midnight from 2013. So it's an amazing achievement in the cinema in general. So think about the fact that we almost, like, people that watched the movie from the beginning really aged alongside with them and kind of walk them through this journey of love and time. And it's really, really an interesting trilogy, and I don't want to spoil much, so I don't want to talk much about the plot. But there are a lot of symbolism in each of the movies. The first movie captures excitement, youth, and love at first sight. The first movie is about this couple, these 2 people, and they come across with one another and they randomly form a very, very deep and special connection. When I saw the first movie, I was so moved. It reminded me how magical life can be and how sometimes you can come across a person that will end up being very, very special in your life. And how magical it is and how random it is to just meet a person and randomly see them, and knowing that they can also see you as you are. And the conversations are deep and you can just feel that immediately. And it doesn't happen often in life, but it happens sometimes. The second movie is about longing, regret, and second chance. And the third movie is about the reality of long-term commitment and long-term relationship and the work that love requires. So there isn't much plot in this movie. It filmed beautifully. We were just basically seeing them having very interesting conversations with one another and slowly forming this very, very special and deep connection. But it feels so real and so human that you almost see yourself in this type of situation. And I think that the fact that this movie has affected so many people across all of those years is the fact that they were able to actually capture something so real and so human and so universal about love and relationship and time. The performances in this movie are incredible. Ethan Hawke and Julie Dipley, they do such an amazing work. Same in this trilogy. On the second movie and the third movie, both of them were actively involved in writing the story and writing the script. And it is such a brave decision, but it works and it creates a very authentic flow. It creates real characters that are driven by real life stories. There are no dramatic twists in this movie, but to me, this is maybe one of the biggest points that this movie is trying to make, and the fact that that's life, and sometimes there are no extraordinary events, but maybe we can find the extraordinary in the ordinary life. So I love that trilogy so much. I think I gave most of the movies 5 stars, but my favorite out of the trilogy is the second one because I think it was so beautiful. The next movie that I have on my list is Vagabond by Agnes Varda from 1985. Agnes Varda is such an interesting and outstanding director, French director. I've watched, this is the second movie of her that I get the chance to see, and I'm blown away. If you love films and you love art house films, I highly recommend checking out Agnes Varda. I think she's an incredible influence to modern day cinema, and it's incredible to see how, even though that some of her works were released 40 years ago or 30 years ago, 20 years ago, it still feels so progressive and so refreshing and unlike anything that I've ever seen. So, Vagabond is a story about a woman named Mona who is living outside of society as a vagabond, as a nomad. She basically dropped out of society. She's a young girl, very beautiful, smart. Supposedly she had a stable job before that, so we're really unsure what happened, and it's not a spoiler, but the movie starts with us discovering her body. This movie is so genius in different ways, but the first thing that I was really surprised with and really loved is the way that Varda then reconstructs the movie. She essentially continues on to a very documentary investigation style of filmmaking. And what happens next is that we get on a journey of meeting all the people that Mona was in touch with in her last weeks of living, essentially. So through their memories and through, we almost like interview them, through their retellings of her, we get to learn more about Mona. But the movie isn't concerned about understanding who is Mona or why did it happen to her or why did she drop out of society. This movie is way deeper than this. Varda isn't interested in teaching people how to look, how to judge. She does the opposite thing. That's why she's not concerned with Mona. She's more concerned with exploring themes like freedom and what does it mean to be free, and maybe there is a price for it to pay, or themes like social expectations and how society is treating people who live outside of social norms and how people judge. And I think Mona's character is so well written. Mona isn't trying to prove anything to anyone. She keeps on meeting people that tell her how she should act or tell her what freedom actually is. But Varda challenges those concepts all the time, and Mona is simply refusing to shape herself around other people's expectation. And I think this movie can be explored because it is really deep and has a lot of symbolism. So if you have watched this movie, let me know your thoughts. I would really welcome them. I think it's such a complex film. I should definitely give it another watch, but wow. Incredible film. We have two more films to cover today, and the next one is Thelma and Louise by Ridley Scott from 1991. This is such a gorgeous movie. Honestly, I knew who Thelma and Louise as icons for years, of course. People dressed up as Thelma and Louise in Halloween, and I feel like this movie and these two women became such a big icon in the Western society that I'm so happy that I got the chance to get some context and finally pick up this movie. It's a gorgeous movie, as I mentioned, and I gave it 4.5 stars. It follows the story of two women, two friends, who decide to escape their ordinary life by taking a weekend trip together. It begins as a very simple and naive getaway, but takes an unexpected turn after an incident that forces them to keep riding across the American West. So I would say it is almost like a Western American type of story, but about women and from a woman perspective. And outside of being a really, really good movie, I'll talk about that in a moment. I think it is such an important piece of art to the filmmaking industry because I feel like it's maybe one of the fewest times where women occupy a role in cinema that traditionally has been reserved for men. And it allows women to be reckless, to be joyful, to be free, almost as men would do. Now, they go through this very, very crazy, wild journey. They do a lot of illegal things like stealing, getting into fight, robbery, and stuff like that. And there is something so satisfying to watch that as a woman. And as I said, this movie is for the girlies. There is something so liberating almost to see these type of characters on the big screen and to have this type of woman icon, in my opinion. And I'm not meaning to sound cliche, but this is exactly how it worked for me. This movie gives women the same cinematic freedom that men has received for decades in Hollywood. And it's such a beautiful female story about friendship, about self-discovery, about freedom, about women that decide to take control of their own life after giving so much of themselves for so many years and providing for people and kind of living according to other people's expectations. Outside of that, it is a really well-made film. It has excellent pacing. I never felt that it was too rushed or too slow. And it has a really, really good balance between humor and tension. And to me, it was the perfect combination of making a film that is entertaining but also meaningful. And a film, I always like when I'm laughing in a film and when I'm crying in a film. To me, I feel like it checks all the boxes, and this is what I'm looking in film. I'm looking to be moved, and it's always really nice when you also get the chance to laugh a little bit. The cinematography is also amazing. Both of them are so beautiful, and the background of the West and the beautiful mountains of it. I think it's Arizona or Utah. It's like the Grand Canyon. So, so, so beautiful. And yeah, I give that movie 4.5 stars. And let me know if you watched that. I'd love to hear your thoughts. The last movie that I have on my list is actually a movie that I've heard a lot from my subscribers. A lot of my subscribers recommended this movie, and I heard about that before, but I think because, again, this name kept on resurfacing, I decided to give it a try. And this is Portrait of a Lady on Fire from 2019. Wow, that was a really, really powerful, feminine, passionate film. Very unique. I think I haven't really seen anything like that in the past. So I'm thinking about that now. I had a lot of feminine type of movies in the month of July. This movie is a French historical drama set in the 18th century. It follows Marianne. She's a painter who is hired to create the wedding portrait of Eloise. Eloise is a young woman who refuses to pose for it. Now Eloise is about to get married, and she doesn't want to get married with this person. She actually doesn't even know him. And these two women begin to form a very deeply intimate connection. When I started watching this movie again, I knew very little about it, and I didn't know who the director was, but I immediately could tell that it was a woman. The feminine energy that comes from this movie is not something that you can miss. It's definitely a movie from a woman perspective about the inner lives of women and about the female gaze. And to me, it's something that I always appreciate a lot. So it's not only a romance story, it is a romance story, it is a love story between two women. But it's more than that, it explores so many themes of art. The art in this movie is incredible. The cinematography is stunning. It explores themes like freedom, or what does it mean to be seen as a person. I really like the fact that it is a historical drama, and there was so much attention to the details of the everyday lives of women. And it tells the story about how women's lives were shaped in that period with limited freedom, obviously, marriage as an institution. And other than the big theme that the movie is able to cover, I loved all of the small things and the small connections and the conversations that women had with one another, and just providing a very distinctive female perspective. The movie is incredibly gentle. It's very soft, it's very slow, and the ending is heartbreaking. One of the most powerful endings to a movie, in my opinion. I think to me the ending was so well done that this is what ended up connecting all the dots and helped the movie land in a very emotionally powerful space for me. So I love that movie. Thank you so much for anyone who recommended me to watch this movie, and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you got the chance to watch some of these movies, and I hope you have a good night.